Got 2 people. How are you guys doing? 5 people. Hope you guys are enjoying your Saturday afternoons. 4 people now. I guess there's one person who's not enjoying their Saturday. Or maybe they're enjoying it too much that they don't want to be here. How are you guys doing? Give me one moment. I'll be right back. Got 8 people here. Garfield will be joining us. I have Garfield, the real Garfield right here. Oh, he's so cute. Yeah, he's so cute. So, how are you guys doing? There is no topic for these live streams. I just do them for the sake of conversation. There is nothing necessarily educational about these live streams, although they always become educational. But I kind of let you guys decide what I talk about. I let you guys decide that. And if you have any questions, then just let me know. Wait. Oh, there you guys are. Hello, Joshua. Hello, Boy de Piranha. Hello, Brazil and Argentina. Cool. Hello, Robbie. Hello, Hess. Hello, Sean. Is your Garfield cat, is it orange? If it's orange, then of course. If you have an orange cat, you got to name it Garfield. Copa America Final. Oh, very cool. So you're in Argentina. You're in Argentina to watch the football. To watch football. When I was in Mexico, I learned very quickly that they don't call it soccer; they call it football. Hi, kitty. Hi, sweetheart. This is a cute little kitty. Loves attention. Rio de Janeiro. But he's fluffy, not short-haired. But if it doesn't matter if it's a short hair or if it's long-haired. How is the situation with the Pride Month in the U.S.? I don't really leave my house that much, I'll be honest with you. So I have seen the rainbow flags in the Target. When you go to Target, you'll see the rainbow flags. Restaurants, mainstream grocers, they will have the rainbow flag. So that's how it is. Basically, Pride Month is when all these businesses put up rainbow flags. That's basically what Pride Month is. The Pride stuff is now on sale because no one buys it at Target. Okay. Yeah, and sometimes you'll see employees with the rainbow flag pin on their shirt. I've seen that before. You call any cat putty tat? Oh, I call these pussies but each one has a name. This is Garfield. Garfield is a rescue. She was abandoned by her owner and ended up in a rescue shelter. So we got them at the rescue. In Munich, where I live, it's right in your face. Oh, you live in Germany. So how's everything in Germany? Are you guys throwing out Merkel? Or yeah, I know Merkel's done with. Merkel is done with in Germany. Who do you think her replacement is going to be? Laschet? I'm looking this dude up. Or Germanic politics, Dutch politics, German politics, Scandinavian politics. I find all that stuff super fascinating because of just the history of those regions. You started reading Flavius Josephus. Are you reading the history on the Roman-Jewish War? My glasses are so crooked. That's better. Are you reading his Antiquities, or are you reading his history on the war itself? Because I would just read the history on the war. Antiquities is good for, it's just good for commentary on the Old Testament. It's pretty much how I see it. So, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. I wouldn't start with Antiquities because it's extremely long and you're basically reading, and it's basically a rendition of a lot of the stories in the Old Testament. The War of the Jews, very good. Very good. It gets a little, I will admit, the beginning of that history is a little bit tedious because Josephus doesn't really begin with talking about how the war started. He talks about what was happening decades before the war. So he talks about Aristobal and some of the prior kings that ruled before Herod. And then he gets into Herod, and then he talks about basically the history of the entire reign of King Herod. He talks about his sons and how his sons hated him. And then he talks about how one son murdered the other two sons, and then Herod had that son killed, and Herod had his wife killed. And then eventually he gets into the Roman War and all the events that escalated to that conflict. You are in book 1. Yep. There's 7 books. It's going to be a long journey. It's a long journey. Reading is a journey, though, I will say. Reading is a journey. It's like you begin reading a book and then you'll start questioning why you're even reading it, because usually books don't begin in an interesting way. I find that a lot of books begin in a tedious way, but then they become super fascinating either in the middle or in the end. What is a good book on Spanish Inquisition to understand my family? Forgiving the Catholics for sins. Hold on, Joshua. I thought you were from India. I'm just trying to understand here. What do you mean crypto Jewish? Like, do you think you're Jewish, or your family thinks they're Jewish and all of a sudden they hate the church, but they're really Indian? I don't know. A good book to read on the Spanish Inquisition. Okay. I forget their names, so I'm going to look up something real quick to help you out. Hold on. Put this little pussy down. There is a book by Edward Peters. Let me see here. Edward Peters. Spanish Inquisition. Yeah, I would look up anything by Edward Peters and his work on the Spanish Inquisition. I would start with there. Very good book. You have Sephardic DNA. All right. So let me ask you something, and I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything. I just would like to know. You say that you learned this from a DNA test. So did your family always know that you guys have Jewish DNA? Or was this something that was discovered recently? I just would like to know because I would like to know. So you just discovered this recently. So you just discovered, okay, so you're Indian. You just discovered that you have Jewish DNA. That really shouldn't mean anything. That literally shouldn't mean anything. That means nothing. Because your entire life you identified as Indian, Canadian. You grew up Christian. Now all of a sudden you find out that you have some Jewish blood, and now all of a sudden your family's like, oh, damn, Catholics for killing our people. That makes no sense. It just makes no sense. That's like me saying, well, I found out that I'm like 1/24th Apache, and man, I hate the white man. I hate the white man so much. They killed Native Americans, man. I hate English people. English people are evil. They killed my people. Like, do you know how and I'm just saying this to kind of help you get through this. Do you realize how cringe that sounds, though? That's just cringe, man. That's cringe, Like, okay, I've been told my whole life that I'm Palestinian, right? Because my dad was born in the West Bank. So my dad always told us, like, yeah, I came from the West Bank. You're Palestinian. Even though I was raised by a Palestinian father, I never once said, oh, I'm Palestinian and I hate the Jews. Never once. Never once. Even my criticism of Israel has absolutely nothing to do with my heritage. Nothing. Okay, I'm gonna get to your last comment in a second here, but I just want to finish my thought. My criticism of Israel, or my criticism of certain Jewish people, did not come about until I began to learn some historical facts. And I wasn't going out looking for it, at least not in the beginning. Like, oh, I'm going to find out about the Jews because I'm a Palestinian. No, has nothing to do with that. It's just I began to read about certain things. And believe it or not, a lot of my criticism of Israel stemmed from just me reading the New Testament. It's like, oh, wow, this makes sense. Oh, synagogue of Satan. Yeah. The Pharisees. Oh, yeah. Crucifixion of Jesus. Oh, read some of Josephus. Oh, wow. Yeah, look at this amazing history. It's just me reading history. It's got nothing to do with my heritage at all. So you say, okay, I want to forgive Catholics. But what is this? Hold on. But forgive Catholics for what? What did Catholics do to you? I don't get it. Like, what did Catholics do to you that all of a sudden, like, what did they do to you that all of a sudden you feel like you have to forgive them or you want to forgive them? If you want to learn about the Spanish Inquisition, just to learn about the Spanish Inquisition, that's great. But why forgive what did the Catholic people do to you? What are your thoughts about the situation in Canada with the Catholic churches getting burned? As I said in my last live stream, it's a bunch of losers who are Native American who think that the world owes them something. The reality is that they're broke losers who probably live on a reservation, or the res, as they call it in Canada. And instead of just looking in the mirror and saying, I'm a loser, they say, well, it's the church's fault, and I hate the church. That's basically what it comes. That's pretty much all terrorism in a nutshell. All of terrorism can be reduced to people thinking that the world owes them something, not reflecting on the fact that they're the problem with their own lives, having an absence of any sort of introspection, and then taking their anger out on other people. That's pretty much what terrorism is. That's pretty much all criminal activity. Jews are more of a religion than a race. Yeah, pretty much. We thought you were going to be live last night. I wanted to be live. I wanted to be live last night. I didn't have a chance. I didn't. Yeah. So anyway, okay. So you say here, forgive Catholic for converting my family with our wait. Again, how long? Oh my God. Okay, I'm guessing. Where are you from, by the way? And your family comes from Goa, correct? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm trying to untangle some of your thinking here because I feel like it's a little bit off. So, for how many generations has your family been Catholic? Yep, exactly. He's a Jew, and now, so yeah, exactly. Okay, you're from Kerala. Kerala is historically a Christian region in India. When I was in the Vatican, I met people from Kerala. I met a very funny Indian man, very friendly, funny, humorous Indian man who was from Kerala when I was in Vatican City. Okay, so for how many generations has your family been Christian or Catholic? People are hung up on these issues so much and often forget that a person can actually examine something in a detached manner and carrying whatever baggage they may. Yep, absolutely. Very true. So for how many generations? Because all of a sudden you find out that you're Jewish and it's like, oh my, it's like, yeah, the Catholic Church wronged my family. It doesn't. 10 generations. So for 10 generations, your family has been Catholic. It sounds like for 10 generations, your family has been enjoying the Catholic faith. Why all of a sudden? So how come for 10 generations, your family didn't say, you know what? We're actually Jews and we really need to forgive the Catholic world. Yeah, 10 generations. And I read that. So for all these generations, your family has been Catholic. How come all of a sudden now you feel like you have this burden to forgive the Catholic Church? For what? This is, listen. Okay, oh my God. Let me tell you something. Almost every single Catholic people every Christian people on the face of this earth, okay, fine, whatever, Christian. Every single Christian people on the face of this earth has ancestors who were not Christian, has ancestors who at some point in time were converted to Christianity. Everyone, everybody. Who cares? Who cares? Do you enjoy being Protestant? That's the question. Do you enjoy being Christian? Do you like being Christian? My family, if you trace my family long enough, you'll find out, for a long time, my family was Muslim. For a very long time, they were Muslim. But then if you go back far enough down the road, you'll find out, and this is what we found out looking at our family history, at the Shoaib family history. You'll find out that we were a bunch of Jews living in Yemen. That's what we were. Look at me. We were a bunch of Jews that got Islamized. And now we're Christian. Things happen. It's like, why are we? Okay. Things happen. Okay, so you took a DNA test and then what? Who cares? So you take a DNA test and all of a sudden you have the burden of forgiving the Catholic world? It doesn't make it. Just think about it, man. Think about how cringe that sounds. I did a DNA test years ago with National Geographic. National Geographic told me that in their database, they have two people that match the closest to my DNA makeup. Do you know who they were? One dude was in Syria and one guy was a Jew in New York. And I ended up talking to this Jewish guy in New York and I said, hey, we're related. And he's like, this is crazy. Some Palestinian guy has one of the closest matches to my DNA. And I'm a Jew in New York. It was crazy. His last name was Berg or something. So now do I all of a sudden have this? Well, I got to forgive the Egyptian people for enslaving us. I got to forgive all of the Arab world for persecuting the Jews of Yemen. I got to now forgive. Oh, how about this? I need to forgive all of the Greeks because let's not forget the Byzantine Empire fought against the Jews of South Arabia. Oh, the Ethiopian Christians fought against the Jews of South Arabia. I guess I have to forgive the Ethiopians. Somehow we got Islamized. I guess I have my ancestors got Islamized at one point in time. I guess I have to forgive the whole Muslim world for the. How far do you want to go? So you took a DNA test. All of a sudden, you're a Jew. Like, are you going to start putting on a menorah? You're going to have what do you call that? Bar mitzvah? Are you going to have how far are you going to go with this? When people get told they are a Jew and right away they're yep, but they were Christian before that. That's crazy. I'm Irish, and I'm sure we had pay. Yes, if you are European, if you're a white guy or woman, your ancestors were heathens at one point in time. Your ancestors were burning people alive for rituals, and you were probably eating not you, but your ancestors were probably eating human flesh and drinking pig blood or some crazy stuff like that. And if I don't know, if you got some ancestors who came from Gaul, they probably fought the Romans. If you got some ancestors from England, they probably fought the Romans at one point as well. How far do you want to go with this? Insane. Come on, Theo. Put on that Jew at New York. Come on, from New York. I'm a Jew from New York. Come on, man. Oy vey, oy meshuggah. Come on. So you're still young. Keep searching, my friend. I, for example, am Greek, but feel so much closer to a Nigerian Christian than a Greek Muslim. Yeah, I got you there. Most Protestants don't understand that most of their reformers were Catholic priests. Let's forgive the pagans, too. How many Arab Christians were converted? Hold on. This cat wants to get out. Hold on. Let me get her out. 1 second, guys. Hold on. Oh, sweetie. Come on. Oh, baby. All right. I'm back, guys. I finally caught a stream. Yep, you did. Hello, Theo. What's up? I'm still not Ethiopian. But you can't forgive me for whatever you're talking about. No, I remember you are Ukrainian. I honestly thought the writing on your title was some like old Coptic script, but yeah, you said that it's Ukraine. Now that I look at it, you're right. Yeah, makes sense. Ukrainian. Now you're Ukrainian. What's your opinion on Valentina Shevchenko? She's of Ukrainian origin, although she was born in Kyrgyzstan, but she's an amazing fighter, one of the best fighters I've ever seen. I'm just like, how far do you want to go? It's like the people who come out and they say, it's like the people who come out and they say things like you have some lady from Peru and she says something like, oh yeah, I took some blood. Turns out I'm like part Judeo. I have some converso blood in me. All of a sudden they got a menorah in the house. Crazy. It's crazy. It's cringe. It's totally cringe. Cringe, man. Who let the cat out? The cat wanted to get out. The cat came in. What do you think about suspension of Father Altman and his politicization of faith and his disobedience to his bishop? I have no idea who Father. Hold on, I've heard of this name before. Let me look it up real quick. Oh, he said Democrats are in hell. I don't know. Some of these priests, I think, are like huge trolls. How is this dude barred from preaching? Because he said Democrats are going to burn in hell. This is what's so crazy to me. You have priests who are literal criminals. You have priests who are who have murdered people. You have priests who have molested children. Life is so freaking insane. Wait, I thought you said you were I thought you said you were a Ukrainian living in Croatia. Okay, so you're Croatian. Okay, fine. Good Lord. All right, you're Croatian. How's the kebab over there in Croatia? Are there statistics of how many Arab Christians were converted to Islam during the Turkish occupation of the Middle East? Probably somewhere. But I mean, most of the Middle East became Muslim. Most of them. Dude, you realize that Palestine, what was known as Palestine back in the Byzantine era, Israel today, the Holy Land, you do realize that it was basically a Christian region. Jerusalem was a Christian city. There were thousands of churches all over the place. Christian relics, Christian priests, monks, monasteries. I mean, Israel was inundated with Christianity in the Byzantine era, and Islam took over. And most of those people became Muslim. Most of the Middle East became Muslim. Syria was Christian, became Muslim. Egypt was Christian, became Muslim. You know, if you're a Middle East, if you're a Muslim, this is also fascinating. If you're a Muslim from the Middle East, at one point in time, your ancestors were Christian or Jewish, but most likely they were Christian. Have you heard of the Orthodox icon carver Jonathan Pagoo? I've never heard of him. But I just don't understand about the Catholic Church. It's like Monsignor Michael Yarbrough was a sexual predator who was preying on yours truly. The dude was promoted to a position of Monsignor after it was known that he sexually assaulted a young man. I confronted him, exposed them. Everybody went against me. But God forbid some priest says, I think Democrats are going to burn in hell. Oh, you can't preach anymore. You can't do that no more. Why do we even though? But I have seen him on YouTube. I've seen him on the recommended videos that YouTube tells me that I should watch. Let's sing Hava Nagila Hava. Yes. I'm sure there is some financial incentive for that kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely. It's basically all the Democrats who go to church. That's what it is. A bunch of rich Democrats who go to church. They put money into the church. Can't piss off the Democrats because a huge chunk of Democrat. Look at all the candidates in America. A lot of them are Democrat. Maryland is Democrat. Ohio, a ton of Democrats over there. A lot of Christians, a lot of Catholics. New York has got a lot of Catholics. Massachusetts has a huge Catholic population. Texas has a huge Catholic population as well, but most of them are probably not Democrat. Probably more than half of the Catholic world in America is Democrat. I heard even 100 years ago, the Middle East was 20% Christian. That makes sense. People are too hung up on genealogy. Yep. And you know what? St. Paul himself warned about this and said, stay away from genealogies. But for some reason, this hasn't registered in anybody's head. Now it's less than 5%. You can thank the Iraq War for that. You can thank good old George Bush and the rest of the U.S. for doing that. When the Oriental Orthodox left in the 5th century, almost like half of Christianity's schisms, it was a big deal. There was a lot of Christians before Islam. Yeah, tons of them. Kebab has too many little pieces for me to eat without getting food all over the place. I prefer cevapici. Cevapcici. Have you ever seen the skit with what's it called? What's the name? There's a skit on YouTube by what's the name of those two black comedians? Kevin and Peele. What was it called? Key and Peele. Remember the Key and Peele? You have the Macedonians on one side and the Albanians on the other, and the the Macedonians are like, it's called Cevapi. Kebapi. Key and Peele, yes. It's hilarious. Key and Peele, Key, and Peele is just the way you spelled it. Fernando Mendez Enriquez is my oldest ancestry. We donated to one of synagogue in Madras. Okay. I'm still trying to understand the point of this. How long ago did he live? Was he your grandfather? I mean, I don't get it. What's the point? Was he forcefully converted and that's why you're Catholic? Do you want to convert to Judaism? Who cares if you got some Jewish blood? Lenin, you know what? Ortho Christos, you just inspired me here. Lenin had Jewish blood. He was evil. What does it matter? The people who crucified Christ were Jews. What does it matter if you're Jewish? Do you know I have Dutch blood in me? I know it's hard to believe, right? Look at my hair. I have Dutch blood in me. My great-grandmother, who I knew since I was a little kid, and she died literally when I was a junior in high school. She died when I was a junior in high school. So I knew her for a huge chunk of my life. She died at the age of 94, I believe. She was born in the early 1900s. She was 100% white. She was a white woman. My grandmother, who is still alive, is 100% white. I remember as a teenager in junior high in California, my great-grandmother lived with us because she was way too old to take care of herself. And I remember I was sitting next to her, and she began to tell me about all of the European blood that I have. She says, Ted, did you know that you are partially Dutch, that you are partially Swedish? Because my great-grandmother's father was an immigrant from Sweden. My great-grandmother's mother was an immigrant from Wales. So she says, you go all the way back to Europe. Your ancestry, a lot of it comes from Europe. She says, you're Swedish, you're Dutch, you're English, you're Welsh, you're all of these things. You're Scottish. So I find out that I'm Dutch. I found out I got some Dutch blood in me. What do I do now? Am I going to get pissed off at the Germans because of something that happened in the... Like, am I going to get pissed off at... I probably got some Danish blood in me too. Should I get pissed off at Germany for something, for the... What do you call that? The Holzflag land conflict? Or, I mean, how far do you want to go? Found out that I got some Irish in me too. My great-grandmother told me that. She said, you have Irish blood in you. So I got some Irish blood in me. I'm pissed at the English, man. They probably messed with my Irish ancestors. I mean, it's just crazy. How long do you want to go? Like, how far do you want to take this? Who cares? Hold on. Do you have a favorite patristic source on the Theotokos? Oh. Good question. St. Theodore the Studite is one of my favorite of the Greek scholars, although it's been years since I've read him. Let me think. Hold on. St. Theodore the Studite. There is... let me look this up right now because it's been a while since I've read these things. There's one author that I really liked. Where is he? So, look up Cyril of Alexandria. Excellent spiritual writer from the Byzantine era. St. John Chrysostom. There's many writers, but I would, if you guys want to read some very rich spiritual writing, Cyril of Alexandria, wonderful writer. How's the garden going? Garden is actually doing very well. We've been getting tons of rain every single day. While the Pacific Northwest gets cooked in an oven, us people down south are enjoying tropical weather. I gotta laugh at your comment, Ortho Christos. It is revealed that I am a racist Boer. Yes, I am. Seriously, it's crazy. It's crazy. I got some German blood. Guess what? My grandmother, who's still alive, is mainly Scandinavian, of Scandinavian background. Ancestry comes from Sweden and Norway. Guess my ancestors were Vikings. I'm going to walk around with the Viking helmet and join the alt-right. Be like, we have to fight for the white race. If I ever became an alt-right lunatic, you know, there'd be a bunch of people who are like, that guy's a Jew. Don't trust him. Hello, Amanda. Or Mandy. Ancestry doesn't mean much. Some Eustatias had Jewish and Serbian families. Yeah. Yeah, and they murdered Jews, and Eustatias were complete. What's your view on the Eustatia? I want to ask you your opinion on that, because that's a very sensitive issue amongst Croatians, amongst people in the Balkans, actually. Theo, did you read Michael E? No, I have not read his book yet. Are you familiar with Jay Dyer? Yes, I am. Not completely, but I've seen some of his live streams, not all of them. I've never watched a complete Jay Dyer video. Any thoughts of the UFO agenda? Well, I know that History Channel used to talk about Hitler, and now they just started talking about, well, they started talking about aliens all day. I knew a guy who worked for History Channel. His name was Terry Shepard. You can look him up. Terry Shepard was a host for a show called Warriors, which was a very entertaining show about the different cultures of war in various societies, both ancient and ones that are still existent today. And I had the opportunity to interview Terry Shepard back in 2000 and I want to say 11. I interviewed him and we spoke about the Battle of Malta, about which he did host a documentary for History Channel. And I remember he told me, because I asked him, I said, "What's up with History Channel, man? How come they got like aliens and all that stuff?" And he says, Ted, they had a board meeting. He says, we were supposed to do a second season for Warriors. He says, you know what they said at this board meeting? And I said, what? He said, they said that the board members, these board members for History Channel said, that Terry Shepard guy, he's a cool guy and everything, but his show's got too much history. And Terry Shepard told me on the phone, he says, you can effing quote me on that. That's what they said in the board meeting in History Channel. That's exactly what they said. It has too much history. So History Channel all of a sudden started talking about aliens and logs, right? Swamp people and people who eat alligators. I really crack myself up with that. So yeah, History Channel is now talking about aliens and people who eat alligators, and they pick up logs for a living. And they talk about aliens. And when you watch the show Aliens, it's some of the most comedic crap I've ever seen in my life. It's like, the samurai sword was so sharp. How did humans develop this blade that was so super sharp? Well, historians say it's because of the fact that they actually knew how to use metal. But some people argue that it was aliens. And there was some Greek guy with he was Greek. He was ethnically Greek. His last name was like Postophilakoros or whatever. His hair is all crazy with gel, probably pig fat in that hair from all the gyro that he eats. And he's like, it's aliens. No, sorry. He looks like somebody that you would see in a casino. He looks like somebody that you would see in a casino in Vegas. He drinks a lot of pina coladas, and he likes to live a high life, probably up to his ass in debt. But yeah, I think that all this stuff about aliens, I think it's crazy. I think people who are super fascinated with that stuff are questionable and suspicious. And yes, there is such a thing as UFO cults. We've seen numerous of them. We had the Heaven's Gate. We had we still have Scientology. So yeah, they still exist. It's crazy. Hold on a second. Meatballs? What? Hi, Theo. I'm Romanian. I'm watching from Romania. It's 3 a.m. here. Hello from America. How is life in Romania? Do you enjoy living there, or do you want to move? Well, goodbye, everyone. I'm moving to Russia to pray to Purun. That's the thing. If your argument is, I found out that I got some Jewish blood, therefore I'm going to convert to Judaism, or I'm going to get a menorah, then that means every European should worship their ancestral gods. That's literally your argument. Drink whiskey. I don't like whiskey. I do like beer. Guinness is actually a super tasty beer, by the way. Very tasty. I got to build a windmill. I got to live in a windmill now. Wear wooden shoes. He's a Jew, and now he needs a kippah and a menorah. Yep. Are you familiar with? Okay, I already read that. I got to drink whiskey, live in a windmill, probably own cows, make my own cheese. What else should I do? Maybe I should walk around with an SS uniform. I have some German in me, Ted. We have to be at war with each other. Yep, absolutely. That's like now in America talking down all the statues of Civil War. Okay. What a Viking savage too. I know you are asked about that book too much. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, you're messing with me now. I gotcha. Mormons are very obsessed with ancestry. Yep, they think that they're the real Jews, even though they are as white as snow. Have you ever seen a Mormon church? I remember I was in Minneapolis, and I saw I was near Minneapolis, and we saw this giant. It looked like something from Disneyland, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" It's a Mormon church. I said for a second, I thought Disneyland moved to Minneapolis for a second there. I thought maybe they have a second location. I was about to go get online to go ride on Magic Mountain. I was going to get in line for Magic Mountain. That's what I thought it was. I know Ancient Aliens. Yeah, it's a shit garbage show. Have you heard of Cyril Lucaris? He was the patriarch of Constantinople in the early 1600s. He converted to 5-point Calvin. You had me for a second. I was like, oh, who is this person? I'm about to look him up. And I thought we had some bad popes. Could you imagine a pope turning to Protestantism? I could imagine a pope becoming an evangelical, non-denominational, going to a Hillsong United. Could you imagine the pope going to Hillsong United? He's telling everybody to take communion and confess their sins. He's going to Hillsong, meanwhile, listening to Korn, Brian Head Welch. Aliens are a hoax. Yep. Completely agree. If you're Swedish, meatballs. Yeah, Swedish meatballs are actually super good. I've made them. Not because I think, I'm Swedish, I'm going to make it, because they're delicious. They're absolutely delicious. Swedish meatballs are probably, in many ways, better than Italian meatballs. I think he's joking, Dennis. They say that the government will want to prepare people for a fake alien. I don't believe that. Is the new Jewish guy circumcised? At least he won't have to do that. That's another thing. If you find out that you got Jewish blood and you're not circumcised, should you then go as a 40-something-year-old man get circumcised? Hey, Theo, what's your thoughts on the 1st century AD Christian author Tertullian? And why was he not made a saint? That is a good question. So Tertullian, very, very popular Christian apologist, living actually not too far away from the time of the apostles. He wrote his most famous work was his Apologia, his Apology, which was a book against paganism and why paganism is inferior to Christianity, why paganism is an evil, savage religion. But Tertullian also wrote about numerous other subjects. He wrote about the Trinity. He wrote about the soul. Tertullian wrote about why Christians should not go to gladiatorial matches. He even wrote a short history on the gladiatorial games. One of our, believe it or not, our main ancient source for the history of the gladiatorial games comes from Tertullian. Tertullian wrote about why Christians should not wear the Roman, what do they call it? The crown. I forgot the name of it. Why it's pagan. He wrote about human sacrifices. He wrote many different books on a lot of different subjects. The reason why Tertullian is not a saint is because later in his life he turned against the Catholic Church, and he wrote a little polemic against the Pope, because the Pope said people who have done the sin of adultery can be forgiven. And Tertullian flipped a lid and went nuts, and he said the Pope is basically a liberal heretic, and he left the church and he joined some crazy charismatic cult. That's why he's not a saint. I really believe that if Tertullian stayed the path, he would be a saint today. It's more than likely that he would be a saint today. I love the Swedish meatballs because of the Viking blood. That explains it. I wasn't joking. There was an Eastern Orthodox patriarch who believed in okay. Look up Cyril Lucaris. Okay, if this is like a plot twist, looking about it now. Cyril Lucaris. My internet is kind of slow. What? Hold on a second. It says here that he was against the Calvinist. It says here that Cyril's aim was to reform the Orthodox Church along Calvinistic lines. Oh, interesting. So this guy was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Life here is good. Population is religious and respectful. I find living here a pleasant, but there are a lot of scars from communist regime. What do you think about Romanians who leave Romania because they say that Romania doesn't have enough economic opportunity? I'd be interested to know your opinion on that, because you're the first Romanian that I've talked to who said that who has said that life in Romania is good. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just interested to know your opinion on those people who say that life in Romania is bad or economically lacks opportunity. Hey, Theodore, have you read about the Maronite Church in Lebanon? I was in the Maronite Church for a while. I was confirmed in the Maronite Church, so I am familiar with the Maronite Church. I have not read much on Saint Maron, but I am familiar with how the Maronites do how they do their liturgy. It's closer to the Byzantine way. Which are the books in which Calvin or Luther say blasphemy? I've heard some things I didn't know about them. I don't know their books. There is something you can look up. It's called Luther's Table Talk, where Luther just rambles on. A lot of Luther's blasphemous stuff is in his Table Talk, but it's huge. So I'm not sure if you're going to find exactly what you're looking for quick enough, but I would just look up Luther blasphemous quotes. And you're going to find a whole bunch of stuff. Very cool, Charbel Yusuf. What's your thought on Miaphysitism? I don't know. Miaphysitism? I don't know what that is. I'm not that educated on the subject. Let me see here. Is one person in two natures, a divine nature and a human nature. They hold that Jesus, incarnate word, is fully divine and fully human in one physis. Oh, exactly what I thought. This is going to be some hair-splitting stuff. If it's not accepted by the Orthodox or the Roman Catholics, then I will reject it. I'm not going to... Yeah, it's accepted by the Oriental, who are not under the Orthodox or the Roman Catholic Church, so I'm not going to accept it. Which rite, in your opinion, is better, Roman rite or Maronite rite? Depends on your area, in all honesty. It really does depend on your area. Can you find yourself a good traditional Latin Rite church? If you can, then go there. If you live in an area like I do, where the churches are filled with gay priests, but you have a Maronite church that you can go to, then go to the Maronite church. It really just depends on what your options are at this point. People don't realize the state of the Catholic Church is so decayed. It's so messed up that it's not even about Maronite versus Latin anymore. It's not about, well, is Greek Rite versus Latin Rite anymore. It's about what are your options at this point. What are your options? What are they? Because it's so messed up. You have priests who are predators preying on young men, priests who are saying blasphemies from the pulpit. It comes to the point where it's like, do I even care about Latin Rite versus Maronite? I don't even care about that anymore. It comes to the point where it's like, who's righteous and who's not? What are your options within your area? Do you live in an area where you can find a good church? And if so, go there. But if the only good church that you have is a Maronite church, then go to the Maronite church. I mean, that's what I've come down. That's basically what it comes down to. People in Eastern Europe are world champions in complaining. People all over the Eastern world are world champions in complaining. Yes, Palestinians love to complain. All Middle Eastern people love to complain. So yes, Eastern Europeans are this way as well. Yeah, there is no opportunity here. You hear this kind of stuff from Middle Eastern people. There's no opportunity here. No opportunity. Everybody dying of starvation. They're eating like sausage and beer every single day. I heard the same type of thing in Italy. Immigrants taking away opportunity. Immigrants ruining Italy. Economy bad here. They're literally eating pizza and beer every day in Italy, by the way. And that includes the poor folks. Pizza and beer every day. And ice cream. And pasta. No one's starving in Italy. They're probably overeating over there. Live Not by Lies is quite good and has reflections on what happened in Romania during the Cold War. Interesting. I'll look that up. Some Eastern Orthodox claim his writings, which was straight up Calvinism, were false and made up by the Catholic Church as a Jesuit. I don't even know, man. As soon as I hear Jesuit conspiracy, I'm just like, oh, give me the evidence. We still use Aramaic, the language of our Lord, in our Mass. Is the Maronite Church very focused on Mary? Absolutely, it is. Yes, there are a lot of them that leave. There were even more in past decades. Yeah, there's a huge Romanian diaspora in the Pacific Northwest in the United States. So if you go to Oregon, if you go to Seattle, you will see a huge Romanian population. Not just Romanian, but like Slavic in general. You'll find Russians and Ukrainians in the Pacific Northwest. I think it is an Eastern European thing. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I once knew a guy who was a Romanian Jew. He installed air conditioning for a living. He installed our air conditioning in California when I was living in the Bay Area back in the early 2000s. And he was a Romanian Jew, and he would work. The guy literally had to like crawl up into our ceiling to install this air conditioning, this giant HVAC system. And I remember he came down and he was absolutely covered in sweat. And and this is how he would talk. He'd come down breathing heavily and he would say, "Water, cold water, please, cold water." And we would feed him, and all of his employees were Romanian immigrants. All of them were Romanian immigrants. And after he installed the HVAC, he invited us to his home. So we went to his house and he served us delicious, delicious food. I never forget it. And his father lived with him, and his wife was there also. And his wife was this American lady, and she wanted to watch some like Mexican opera music video. And this old Romanian Jewish guy is like, "Turn that off! Turn that garbage off! Turn it off!" And this dude's wife looks at him and says, "Oh, would you just shut up already?" And this old Romanian Jew says, "I'm Jewish. I don't watch this garbage." And I'm sitting there like, dude, let the lady watch the Mexican singer if she wants to. Like, who cares? You know, people like you said, they're master complainers. Cyril grew up in a time where Turks suppressed church, so he was trained theologically in Venice and Germany. There he was introduced into Calvinist doctrines. Okay, very interesting. History has ended. Could you explain further on what you mean by that? That's an interesting observation. I'm saying in the bark of St. Peter, no matter how rough the waters get, it will never founder. Okay, I agree with you. What's the most important sacrament? Also, are people who reject the sacrament still Christians? I mean, where are you from, by the way? I'm just interested in where are you from, because you don't ask very common questions. What are the most important sacraments? There is no such thing as the most important sacrament, in my opinion, because if you take the Eucharist, but you don't go to confession, then you're damning yourself. So confession, I would say, is the one sacrament that really keeps you in check. But the Eucharist also keeps you in check because you can't take it without confession. So everything works together mutually. Are people who reject the sacrament still Christian? They're not necessarily not Christian. They're not necessarily Christian. I think it depends really at the heart of the issue. Do they have compassion? Are they willing to work with other people? Are they vicious? Because there are Catholics who aren't Christian either. There are Catholics who are straight up Nazis. There are Catholics who are straight up communists. I don't consider those people Christian, but they are evangelicals who will fight to the death to defend their faith against the sodomite agenda. I would consider those people more Christian than a lot of these Catholic people who say, oh, our priest molested a boy. It doesn't matter. He's still a good man. What are your favorite mysteries for contemplating during the rosary? And do you think Protestants saying the rosary is inappropriate? One of my favorite mysteries. Probably I don't know. I can't really answer that question, to be honest with you. I never really thought about which one was better, because they're all reflecting their life of Christ, and each one is there to teach you something. Protestants saying the rosary is inappropriate. I don't think it's inappropriate. No, I think if Protestants have a closer relationship with Mary, that brings them closer to the truth. So I wouldn't have an issue with that. Allison, in my opinion, any Christian can pray the rosary. Yep, there you go. I agree with you. Indeed, and many Pentecostal Romanians and Russians north of Seattle, where I am. Yep, I knew a number of Romanian immigrants who lived in Seattle. I live in the UK, and I'm a convert to Orthodoxy. Okay, very cool. Isn't baptism the most important because it is needed for other sacraments? Yeah, but you can be baptized, and then you could just forget all the other sacraments. Listen, every single Mexican gangster that you read about was baptized as a child. Doesn't mean they're good people. That's why you need confession. That's why you need the Eucharist. Like, everything is there to keep you in line. Pope Francis is sadly quite ill. What do you think? Who do you think is most likely to succeed him? I have no idea. I love the Luminous. Very nice. You know, the way it is a prerequisite for the others. Okay, I can understand that, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily more important, because you have people who aren't baptized yet, or they weren't baptized in the Catholic Orthodox Church, and they have it better. They have it more right than people who were baptized in the Catholic or Orthodox Church. What's your opinion on unbaptized babies? Heaven? I mean, come on, dude. I don't know. You know, it's very interesting. Thinking about life. Life is depressing. It is. Life's depressing. We have our good days, but then you think it's all really... I don't want to become a nihilist, but I'm not a nihilist. But if it wasn't for principles, if it wasn't for religion, life is completely meaningless. Life's depressing. You can have a child, and the child can die very young. You don't know when you're going to die. You don't know how long you're going to live. Everything is transient. Everything is completely limited. Nothing is forever. You enjoy your time with certain people, but then you realize we're all going to die. It's depressing when you look at it. I mean, really, when you look at it at the surface, it is absolutely depressing. Life's depressing. You read the Old Testament, most of it is tragedy. Most of it is wars, diseases, famines, murders, betrayals, which makes me believe that the Bible is true, because the Bible is honest. You read some religious texts, and there's a lot of pie in the sky stuff. But the Bible is very honest. The Bible gives you the nitty-gritty realities of life and puts it right in front of you. Oh, these two women both had children, each one had a baby. One squished her baby to death, And now they're fighting over this one child. It's ugly. Absolutely ugly. David sleeps with Bathsheba, then sends her husband to the front line to die. It's ugly. David tells Uriah, oh, why don't you go to your house and feast? Basically, just what David was doing was pure manipulation. It's ugly. Pharaoh kills all the firstborn male babies, feeds them to the crocodiles and rivers. It's ugly. You can just go on and on and on with it. There's a famine in Israel. It's ugly. There's not a lot of beauty in the stories of the Old Testament. You know, we get all the nice, we get some of the nice stories in those children's books that they give for the Sunday school, but I've read most of the Old Testament. It's ugly. Life is depressing. It is. It's absolutely depressing. I try to find some kind of consolation with music, with cooking, with gardening. But, you know, life ebbs and flows. You know, they want to sell you a lie. They want to sell you a pill. Take this pill, it'll make you happier. That's why so many people in my generation, the millennial generation, are on psych medication. They're on antidepressants because they think I should be happy all the time, but I'm not. And they don't want to, either they don't know or they don't want to know that life ebbs and flows. It's like the water. It goes up, it goes down. It goes up, it goes down. And there's some days where I feel amazing. I'm not even thinking about death. I'm not thinking about tragedy. And there are some days where I'm just like, oh my God, I'm in existential turmoil. And then there's some days where most of my days, I'm right in the middle. I'm right in between happiness and existential turmoil. That's where I'm at. And it just ebbs and flows. Life ebbs and flows, you know? There's no such thing as pure happiness. That's why when you go to a group, like when you go to a religious meeting or when you join a religious organization or group and everyone is super nice, it's usually a red flag. What that usually means that they're trying to manipulate you, trying to lie to you. When I went to that monastery in Italy, which turned out to be a cult, everybody was nice. And when I mean nice, I mean they were a little too nice. You had these female nuns walking up to you, wanting to touch your hair. Like, what the hell? Why are you touching me for? They start petting you like a cat. You're like, what the hell? It's like they never seen a male in their life, or they haven't seen one in a long time. They're like, oh. It's like those nerdy guys who never talk to girls, and then one female joins the video game chat, and they all lose their minds. That's how it is walking into a monastery. That's how it is for a guy. When a guy walks into a monastery full of nuns, they haven't seen a guy in so many years. They go crazy. And they were super, super nice, super, super friendly, super touchy-feely, but they were a cult. That's not reality. It's not. Life's depressing. It is. It's depressing. History has ended. I don't get what you mean history. What do you mean by history has ended, though? When did it end? That's the question I have. When did it end? I think when we are splitting hairs about whether unbaptized babies go to heaven, we are focusing on yeah, I completely agree. It's just a pointless discussion. You sound like the Kansas song Dust in the Wind. Yeah. It's true. All your money, what's it for in the end? Unless you have kids and you want to give them an inheritance. But I don't have kids. Your son's name is Uriah. You better watch out. Don't let him get married. He's going to get screwed over. Will he get depressed when he learns the story about Uriah? I'm telling you, he better not get married. Bible is two-edged sword, giving truth and destroying evil. Have you heard about Pilecki experiment, in which communists mocked Holy? Yes, I actually have, in Romania. Yeah, weren't they drowning priests in feces and stuff like that? It was pretty horrific. How do you explain people being that evil? Well, we still live in a fallen world, don't we? It's why life is depressing. Yeah, we're broken. We're like a mirror that's shattered into pieces. And it's really only through Christ that we can bring those pieces together. And that mirror will reflect the image of Christ. But that's a very difficult and arduous journey because we're so broken. Have you looked into the thesis that Islam originated as a non-Trinitarian Christian? Yes, I have. It's really an extension of Arianism. My theory, though, is that Islam was something that kind of was innovated by Arab Jews, Idumean Jews, to be exact. A lot of Muhammad's earliest followers were Jews. Life is depressing. It's depressing. For many people, the problem with evil turns them away from God. For me, it affirms God. It's like the opposite effect. Yep. The same thing with me. Jesus says he didn't come to bring peace. Well, yeah, because the world is completely broken. But that doesn't change the fact that it's depressing. I mean, even Jesus, when he was here, he was murdered. He wasn't murdered because he said, "Oh, kill me, I need to die." He was murdered because people are so evil. The world is so evil, especially people in Judea. That monk was too friendly as well, right? Yeah, there was that as well. Stay away from monasteries. I'm telling you right now, stay away from them. They're weird. Very weird. Have you ever considered going back to Lebanon to find a? Well, I'm not Lebanese. If listen, I'm half Palestinian. If I ever go back to Lebanon, I'd be most likely impaled. The end of history proposes a state in which human life continues indefinitely into the future without any major changes in society. Oh, I see. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I don't agree that means that it's the end of history, though, because history repeats, or history kind of repeats itself. And I mean, how do you define a major change in society? Because we've had some pretty major changes in society. I mean, gay marriage has been constitutionalized by the United States. It's been made constitutional. That's a pretty major thing in American history, in world history, in modern history. By the way, this is iced tea that I made. I make my own iced tea. This is a mixture of sage, lemongrass, and stevia. And stevia is super sweet, guys. I would recommend that you guys grow it. I would recommend, okay, people should read Lord of the World, a prescient book for our age, even though it was written. I will look that up. That sounds like an interesting read just by the title of it. That's a good title for a book. By the way, I just saw a film. I saw a film today. Again, if you don't mind films are a bit disturbing, you will probably like this movie. It's called The Invitation. I remember hearing about this book. I remember hearing about this film when it first came out in, I want to say 2016. And it didn't really look interesting to me because it was about a guy in a dinner party. Oh, that sounds boring. But then I started reading some reviews for it, and I heard that it was like a really well-directed film. So I watched it. And I will say The Invitation is a very well-directed movie. Very well-directed film. Why do I say it's very well-directed? Because literally most of the film takes place in a living room. Almost 100% of the film is literally in somebody's house. And yet the movie does such a good job in keeping you interested in the story. Even though there's nothing violent happening, there's no action until the end, your attention is perpetually grabbed in this movie. And it's about a guy who gets invited by his ex-wife to a dinner party, and he realizes that it's a cult. And the invitation is not really to a dinner party, but it's an invitation to convert to this cult. And things go crazy in this movie. And it's one of those LA New Age guru cults. The thing is, I remember, a lot of liberals will make fun of Christians for believing in the end times, but man, I will agree that they are very, very strange cults amongst the so-called right wing. But man, amongst the liberals, they are some deranged cults. Deranged cult. Those like Burning Man, New Age cults. Like they'll make fun of the cults, like the Christian cults, where the women are dressed up like Amish ladies. But they don't talk about the liberal women in cults who have hairy armpits and are covered in sweat and they're living in the desert somewhere. I mean, those people are whack. Completely whack. If you want to be a monk, go into the desert and find a nice cave. History run in cycles. Yeah, I agree. 2020 was the point of culmination. Okay. Have you ever read? I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. Is it because do you say that because of coronavirus? Have you ever read the Toledot Yeshu? No, I have not. I don't think democracy was built to last. If you look at most of them, they're not built to last. They're built because people, the reason why we have democracies is because people are not united. They're not. That's why we have democracies, because people have different opinions. So now we want to please everybody so they can vote for whatever they see appeals to their interests or benefits their ideological, economic interests. And we're not united as a country, so we have democracy. Obviously, they're not good at lasting because eventually you will have a dominating opinion, and that dominating opinion is going to win the elections. Hello, Guts. I did watch The Book of Eli. That was a very good movie. I love that movie. Have you seen Tomorrow War? No, but I'm looking it up right now. American military science fiction film. That Tom Cruise? No, Chris Pratt. Okay. I heard it's actually a good film. Looks like it's a promising movie. How do you interpret the way Macedonians spread Greek language in Asia and Africa related to Septuaginta, Seljuk Turks, and Crusades conquering Roman Empire? Arabs conquered almost everything in 100. How do you interpret the way Macedonians spread? Okay, Macedonians through Alexander the Great, I'm assuming. I don't know. It was an empire that expanded. Eventually, the Greek Empire eventually got crushed by the Roman. Seljuk Turks expanding. Seljuk Turks expanding. Well, they came from Central Asia. They were one of the numerous Turkic migrations and invading migrations, I should say, that came from Central Asia. You have the Huns, you have the Mongolians, and Mongolians were Turkic people. And they eventually took over much of the Middle East. I mean, it's just history. Lord of the World was written by Monsignor Robert Hugh Benson and was published in 1907. Okay, I looked it up. I'm looking at the wiki page for it. Years also Mongols that beat everything. Yeah, Mongols. I think Mongolia had like the biggest empire in history. What is your opinion on COVID vaccine? I'm not a scientist. I'm not really a doctor. I'm not entirely sure. If we ever have a third world war, what do you think will be the main flashpoint? No, there's no way I could ever predict that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Terrorist attack in Belgium. Germany says we got to control the borders. They send Frontex into Belgium, end up being a German occupation. And so it begins again. What is your opinion on limiting democratic voting rights for people 35 and older? I think that's wrong. With Chris Pratt just came out. Okay, I'm definitely going to look that up. I'm trying to see in spreading the Greek in Orient by Macedonians was helping later in spreading Christianity. Oh, I see. I don't know. I would say one of the greatest helps to the spread of Christianity was the Roman road system. It's a safe bet, yeah. What I have heard from George Friedman was that Turkey is going to rise, Japan is going to rise, and then Turkey and Japan are going to make a coalition force. They're basically going to declare war on the United States, and then there's going to be a war between America, Germany, America, Japan, and Turkey, and then Germany will join the Japanese and the Turks against the United States. Could be. I don't know. I recommend a short film about killing by Krzysztof Kielicki. Okay, hold on. I'm pretty sure I watched this. Actually, no, I had not watched this. Is this about communist regime? Oh, it's like it's a courtroom drama. Interesting. What's your take on the return of Taliban and the geopolitical implications? Well, as I have said in my recent videos, Turkey is going to replace the United States in Afghanistan, and Turkey is going to use that as an opportunity to spread its military hegemony within Central Asia. That's it. Simple as that. That's what's happening. We've seen this in Syria. We've seen this in Libya. We've seen this in Iraq. Everywhere America makes power vacuums in the Muslim world, Turkey is right there waiting for the opportunity to fill in that power vacuum. Bottom line. Hey, you are awesome, Ted. We do live in dark times, but you bring us all some light. I appreciate that. Thank you. There's a German saying, all good things come with three. What does that mean exactly? What are the three? Very good Polish cinema. Okay, I will watch this film whenever I get the chance. How many crusades have already taken place? A lot. Too many. The first crusade was successful. The rest of the crusades were either so-so or just downright disastrous. China wants to annex Taiwan by the year 2049. Some say it's a suicide mission. What are your thoughts? I mean, I don't know if China would do that. If China ever tried to invade Taiwan, the Japanese would probably get involved. Yeah, Germany always teams up with two other nations. Yep. Yeah, World War I, it was the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian, and then World War II, it was the Japanese and the fascist Italians. So yeah, there's a German saying, "Schweigt nicht gut, Miosch kaputt." I don't know what that means. Come on, I don't speak German. But a bit of topic. But recently watched a great movie, For Greater Glory. Yeah, I watched that film in theater when it came out. It was okay. I think the idea of the film was great. The problem with that movie was that it was terribly directed. The concept was awesome. I would love to see a great film on the Cristero War that's actually well done. It's like this. Let's say I do a film about D-Day and the battle over Normandy Beach, but it's terribly directed. The acting is to the point where you have a bunch of guys on sand and the gunshots are sound effects that you get from iMovie or something, GarageBand, and you got a bunch of guys with extremely clean army uniforms that look like they were ordered from Amazon, and the soldiers are like, "Oh God, Germans, what do we do?" You'd be like, "Yeah, the concept is great, but the directing is complete garbage." But then you watch Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan and you watch the first scene and you're like, "Okay, wow. Wow, that's how horrific it was. Whoa." You feel the complete impact of how horrific this battle was. It's the same thing. It's the same way I feel about this film. I watched that film in the theater and I came out of the theater very disappointed because the acting was terrible. But it's not really the actor's fault. It's the director's fault. The director, because Garcia, I think his name was Danny Garcia. Not Danny. I forgot his first name. But Garcia is a good actor. It's not the actor's fault. It's the director's fault. Because if you notice, every battle scene in that movie is in slow motion. Pretty much every battle scene in that movie is in slow motion. Anytime you see a film where every battle scene is in slow motion, you can rest assured the director doesn't know what he's doing. It's terribly directed film. It's a terribly directed film. Instead of just having a battle, no music, that's another thing. That's another sign of really bad directing. Where you have music in a battle scene. There should be no music in a battle scene. Nothing. There should be music should be seldomly used in a film. In Saving Private Ryan, you hear music maybe once or twice, and it's where you see the bodies on the beach of Normandy, and they have this kind of American patriotic music playing in the back. That there's a time and a place for music. But when you're watching that scene where they're fighting in the beach, or when you're watching that final battle scene where the sniper gets blown to pieces with a tank and the Jewish guy and the German are having a fight to the death and the Jew gets stabbed in the chest and he's begging the guy to stop. I mean, it's this horrific scene. When you're watching these scenes, there is no music. Why is there no music? Because the impact and the gravity and the intensity of the scene speaks for itself. Doesn't need music to amplify it. It speaks for itself. It absolutely speaks for itself. Now, when you see the dead soldiers on the beach and that trumpet music is playing in the back, that is perfectly executed. That's an adequate scene for music because that scene, it brings about an occasion of remembrance for the fallen. It's like music that you would hear on Veterans Day. So that is where that music is fitting. But when you're watching a battle and the director wants you to feel the horror of the battle, he's not going to put music because when you're fighting in battle, there is no music. But when you watch that film for greater glory, it's like there's too many scenes where things are explained. And that's never a sign of a bad director. A perfect sign for bad directing is when they're explaining too much to the audience. In other words, they're treating the audience like the audience is stupid, and that shouldn't be the case. You're watching a film. You're not reading a book. You're watching a film. And in a film, it should be like a painting. When you're looking at a painting, the painting explains itself. You're looking at a painting from the 30 Years' War, and you see a battle going on. You know it's a battle. It doesn't need to explain itself. When you're seeing a painting that was inspired by the Black Death and you're seeing people dying on a field, that doesn't need to be. The painting is not explaining anything to you. You're looking at the painting and you immediately have an emotional reaction to that, or you're having some kind of emotional stimuli to it. Painting does not need to explain itself. A film should not explain itself. A film should not explain itself. A film should just present. A film should just demonstrate and illustrate. A film should just show itself. There's a wonderful scene. If you guys want to watch a beautiful example of what is to me perfect directing, watch the film City of Life and Death. It's a perfectly directed film. Perfectly directed. It's a Chinese film, but it's about the Japanese occupation of Nanjing or Nanking. And there's a scene in the film where there's only one Japanese soldier who has sympathy for the Chinese. And the Japanese soldier, he walks up to this Chinese woman and he notices a cross hanging on her neck, a crucifix on a necklace. And he points to the necklace and he says, in broken English, I go to church school. Can I have? And she gives him the necklace. He takes the necklace. Meanwhile, the Japanese soldiers, well, in the end of the film, there's a scene where the Japanese soldiers do this ritual dance for their god, the emperor, who is divinized as kind of a human manifestation or an incarnation of the sun god. And they're beating their drums and they're running down this route. And the one who went to church school is carrying this ark, because in this ritual, which is still done in Japan today, a bunch of men carry literally an ark. It's an ark, and on top of the ark is a box, and they believe that their god lives in the box. They literally believe that. And so these soldiers believe that their god is in the box. The sun god is in the box. And the man who went to church school is one of the soldiers carrying the ark. And part of the ritual is that these men have to sprint as they're holding up the ark. And it's a way to show physical endurance. And so they're running, and he's completely exhausted. And they stop, and he just screams this scream of desperation. And the scene cuts out. So these scenes aren't explaining anything to you, but they're demonstrating something. Now, why do I say this is good directing? Well, it's good directing because, for one, your mind knows it's good directing. That's why when you look at films that are really, really well done, pretty much everyone agrees that the film is really well done, because we know instinctively what is good art and what is not. It's like when you watch Gladiator, pretty much everyone says that's a wonderful movie. Braveheart, wonderful film. Saving Private Ryan, wonderful film. Forrest Gump, wonderful film. Why? Because these films don't explain things, but they demonstrate. Now, there is some explaining in Forrest Gump, but that's more of like a narrator position. Now, why do we see these films as great? Why do we see films that don't explain themselves as great films? Because in life, almost nothing is explained to you, because it's reality. In life, most of us are, I truly believe this. In life, we're all literally witnessing red flags pop up around us, and most of us ignore it because things aren't explained to us. That's because that's life. When you go to a monastery and the Mother Superior is telling you that her best friend is a Kabbalist wizard, that's not something. And no one's coming up to you and saying, "Hey, this is a red flag," but instinctively you know, like, this is a red flag. It doesn't need to be explained to you. Like, you know, it's a red flag. Or when you, and this actually happened, when a monk is driving you and he turns on the radio and literally the song that's playing is a song about male genitalia. And you're like, why are you listening to this? And he goes, oh, I didn't know this song was bad. My English is not good. That's a red flag. Or when a monk tells you that his favorite movie is on the life of Prince and he loves Bohemian Rhapsody, like, you know, there's something nefarious going on here. In life, you are faced all the time with red flags. And when you watch a good film, like, for example, a good horror film, one thing you'll notice is that the characters are faced with red flags. And guess what? Most of the time when you watch these films, you're not picking it up. You're just as clueless as the characters. That's the sign of a good director. The sign of a bad director is someone who tries to explain everything to the audience to make sure that the audience gets it. That's the sign of bad directing. No, you should allow the audience to be fooled. You should allow the audience to have those moments that go, Oh, I didn't realize it. He's the bad guy the whole time. How come I didn't see it? Because in reality, most of us don't see these things. In reality, most of us don't see red flags. We instinctively feel that there is something wrong, but we ignore it either because we want to be polite, we're too scared, or we think we're overreacting, or we don't want to give the perception that we're overreacting. I'm telling you, I think about this stuff all the time. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Braveheart had wonderful battle scenes, no music necessary. But when you watch that film about the Cristeros of Greater Glory, it's like everything's in slow. I remember it was so bad. I was watching the movie. I was sitting there in the theater, and you know the movie's bad when you want to sleep. When you want to watch it, when you want to fall asleep during a film, you know the movie's bad. When the film has you hooked, you're like, oh, it's a good film. Like I watched the film The Invitation. The whole movie's in some guy's house, and I'm just like, what's gonna happen next? Oh, that's a red flag. Oh, there's something. Oh, something's going on. You know that's a good film. But when you're watching a film and you feel exhausted because the film, there are these scenes in bad movies where things are drawn out, they're dragged out, you're watching them, you want it, you're just like, okay, where's the excitement? A film should be grabbing your attention throughout every minute. It should be grabbing your attention. Braveheart grabs your attention in every moment. Even in the scenes where people are talking, the most beautiful scene in Braveheart, in my opinion, is when Edward the Bruce confronts his father. Oh my God. There's two scenes where he confronts his dad, and it's such a beautiful film. And the scenes really illustrate the gravity and the heavy burden of guilt. And Edward the Bruce basically confronts his father, and he says, we betrayed him. And he has this scene where he says, like, what did he say? He said, I betrayed him, and I saw it in his face in the battlefield. And his father says, all men betray all those hearts. And his son goes, I know William's heart. And then he goes, I want to believe as he does. And then his father says, you are still my son, or something like that. And Robert the Bruce says, I will never be on the wrong side again. I mean, come on. It's poetic. I will never be on the wrong side again. Just the power of guilt and how it can guilt can destroy somebody, but it can transform you at the same time. You know, if you have feelings of guilt about something, you can either let it haunt you for the rest of your life, or you can let it transform you. You can let it be a lesson and say, like Robert the Bruce, I will never be on the wrong side again. Like a Japanese Shinto, yep. Ark of the Covenant, yep. Box Ghost. Was China always anti-religion? They were always anti-Christianity has quite a history there. Also, Gods and Generals overuses its music. Yeah, I heard that film is super boring. It's like 4 hours long. I watched your video on Africa yesterday, and I loved it. I'm curious, would you be okay with Boers ruling South Africa? I don't know. If they rule it justly, I wouldn't have an issue. What do you think about Manav ethnicity in Anatolia? Most people say different things. I don't know what that is. Manav ethnicity. Love Gladiator. Yeah, great movie. I agree with you on those points. I guess I really love the story. That's fine. I love the story. I love the story too. I would love to see an actual film on the Cristero War, just one that actually was well directed. The film was terrible. Some of the worst directing I've ever seen. It's really bad. The directing is terrible. I really believe that people who direct films like that are probably, I don't know. You have to be suspicious of them, because it's like, this movie's bad. Why are you doing it? I knew a director, by the way, who made movies like that. I knew a film director years ago who made who made a shitty movie. His name is Peter Spencer. You can look him up. Peter Spencer. He made a film called Return to the Hiding Place, and it was a terrible movie. And I remember Peter Spencer came to my house saying he was going to make this movie. I was like, okay. And he saw my German Shepherd. He says, "Hey, could your German Shepherd be a guard dog?" I was like, "Doctor or agent, I don't know." But he made this film called Return to the Hiding Place, and it's a perfect example of terrible directing. Terrible. And it has a big actor in it. It has the guy who played Gimli in Lord of the Rings, Rhys Davies. But it doesn't matter. It's not the actor's fault. It's the director. It's like a manager. Sometimes, it's not the employee's fault that a restaurant is failing. It always comes down to who's managing it. Have you watched The Chosen, and what are your thoughts on it? If you have, I have not watched The Chosen. Is it a good film? Let me look it up. I don't know. I have not watched it, no. What else do we have here? I love the part where Longshakes throws the gala. Yeah, that was funny. Have you ever seen the Mystic River movie? Mystic River. I think I have. Did I watch this? No, I haven't. With Sean Penn, I haven't seen it. Is it a good film? I don't know. I remember seeing the trailer when I was living in California. I'll have to look that up. I have not seen it. Except in Shintoism, let's see here. They have multiple gods or kami. Yep, every region, village have their own kami. Yep, that's true. A Beautiful Mind is a great film. Yep, I watched that film. It was very well done. Gods and Generals is really a movie about Stonewall Jackson that makes the slaves look happy and in such a cringe way. I just heard that film is hella boring. Spencer, not a friendly surname. No, you're absolutely right. Robert Spencer, Richard Spencer. Yeah, Herbert Spencer. I never saw Spencer that I liked. But yeah, you can look him up. Peter Spencer. He made a movie called The Return of the Hiding Place. It was a terrible movie. Terrible. And I knew Peter Spencer. I knew him. I met him numerous times. I met his family. And he got into this whole Christian film directing thing, and he made him. You can watch it on YouTube for free. Franklin Graham tried to promote it. I mean, the film was garbage. Garbage. A fish root from the head down. Okay. You should watch the documentary about the Battle of Choisin Reservoir called Choisin. I will look it up. Did you watch the David Suchet version of Murder on Orient Express? No, I have not. There's a lot of good movies out there. It's hard to find them, Murder on Orient Express. Films. Oh, do I love those movies? No, I heard about some. I have not seen it. I love the slow burning films. I mean, give me like a Hereditary, Black Coat's Daughter, The Witch, The Invitation. These types of films are really well done. They're well directed, and they're so good at producing a lot with nothing. Like The Witch. It's just five people in a. What is it? Like 6 people in the middle of the snow, but yet it's a riveting story, these films are just well done. Like if I had to direct a film, I would be great. I would just follow the models of those films. Give me a Hereditary, give me The Invitation, the way that these films are directed. I'm not saying these movies are necessarily perfect, but the way that they're directed is well executed. My favorite film is Marley and Me. Is it about Bob Marley? Any recommendations on good, true Catholic battle movies? Yeah, watch Apocalypto. Great film. Mel Gibson is a masterful director. He really is. He's a master at his craft. Apocalypto was an amazing movie. I loved it, and it had a Christian message in it. But again, it wasn't in your face. It wasn't trying to explain things to you. It allowed itself to explain itself. Modern cinema lacks good detective movies. Yeah, probably. Was the Battle of Choisin the Korean? I don't know. A fish rots from the head down. Oh, I see. Okay. Is there any movie made on the Catholic samurai? Nope. I don't think so. There was a film that was made on Christians in Japan. It was called What was it called? It had Liam Neeson in it. What was the name of that movie? What was the name of that film? Silence. That was the name of the film. The film was very well directed. There was some things about the film I really didn't like. I wasn't too crazy about the ending, but I would say that everything until the ending was very well directed. What about the new Invisible Man movie? I saw it. I thought it was good. Good suspense film. The move Mr. Jones is amazing for anti-communism. Okay. I'll look into that. Have a great night. Always interesting hearing your thoughts. Have a good night, Dennis. Theo, have you watched the 1970s movie series Jesus of Nazareth? Yes, I have. Masterpiece. Very well directed film. A really good 1970s film, Christian film, is Barabbas with Anthony Quinn. It's a masterpiece of a film. If you have not seen Barabbas, you should watch that film. You need to watch it. Barabbas with Anthony Quinn. Masterpiece. Very well directed, very serious. It doesn't have this boring, annoying, cringy, like sing-along stuff that you'll see in like Spartacus. It's just it's a masterful film. When I watched Apocalypto, I loved it. I predicted the ending. I said to myself, at some point, the Spanish are going to show up. And when they were on the beach, I was like, yep, yeah, wonderful film. The New Orient Express was terrible. Silence. Yes, that's the name of the film. If there's a movie about Christ and it sucks, what would that be considered as blasphemy? No. It's terribly directed. I think if you make any film regarding the Christian faith, you need to make it into a masterpiece. It needs to be a masterpiece. If you don't have the money to direct a well-made film, then you should not direct it. Bottom line. It needs to be a masterpiece. It's like saying, well, it's like, you look at the old medieval artwork of the crucifixion or the Renaissance artwork of the crucifixion. You say, oh, wow, it's beautiful. But then let's say I take a crayon and I go, oh, look, here's the crucifixion. It's artwork. You say, well, this is garbage. It's not blasphemy. The reason I asked is that you did once to educate on the Japanese war lord who converted to Catholicism. Yes, I did. I wrote an article about it, but I don't think there are any films about it. Barabbas was 1961. Okay, thank you for the correction, but it's still a masterpiece and you should go see it. I would consider the movie The Last Temptation blasphemy. Yes, I would agree, definitely. Apocalypto is a great film. They don't have it to even say a word, and you can, yep, exactly. You do not need to explain anything to people. You do not need to explain it. And if people don't get it, then that's their problem. There should not be any explanation. A film should just simply demonstrate itself. That is it. Let things happen, because that's life. In life, rarely do people explain anything to you. Things just happen. Like, poof. Oh, he's a Satanist. I didn't know. Well, you should have. But then you look back and you're like, oh, shoot, all the red flags. It's like when I met that priest who was a predator, Robert Kinsel. And all of a sudden I realized he's a predator. And I'm like, how did I not see this? And then I start recollecting all my memories. And I remember red flag after red flag. Oh, he said that, hey, Ted, I can introduce you to this beautiful Italian girl. Oh, great. Thanks. Hours later, sends me an email saying, hey, Ted, if I'm going to introduce you to this Italian girl, I'm going to need your photo. I'm going to need your age. I'm like, yeah, here's a photo of me. And I'm 23 years old. And then you realize, oh, shoot, he wanted that photo to show to his predator friends. He wanted to know my age so he could confirm that it was legal to be a predator on me. Oh my God. You start seeing all those red flags. That's life. And a film should reflect that reality. A film should reflect the reality that things are not explained to you. Things ambush you. They're not even shown to you. They ambush you. Bad things ambush you. It's like when people say, well, if somebody were to attack me, then I would do this. And most of those people are full of shit, because when people attack you physically, you're not going to expect it. Did you ever watch the TV show Gotham? I think so. The Batman cartoon. I thought that by making their Joker into 3 people, we got into the mind of evil people. Okay. What do you think of the Patriot movie? Oh, wonderful film. Waiting for another content with you and Sam. Well, I'm going to have to contact Sam to get on a show. But that's only if I have a topic to talk with him about. In silence, you have to choose between rejecting Christ publicly and save lives of innocent Christian converts, or keeping your faith and sacrificing the lives of those. Yes, I know. It was a very depressing movie. When I ever get insulted, I don't care. But when people insult the faith, I get upset. I realize now what offends people the most shows what their God is. Yep. That's true. That's very true. So I've been here for over an hour, maybe even 2 hours now. Over an hour. What happened with your podcast with Biazad? Biazad does not work with us anymore. And you're going to ask me, well, why? And I'm going to explain to you why. Andrew Biazad, got arrested, and he got charged with child endangerment. He has 6 children, so he got 6 counts of child endangerment. And we had to let him go, because we don't want people who have that sort of record to be working with us. So that's why. I tried to watch Sam's videos and he rants too much. I like you because you are more organized with your thoughts. Well, we have different styles, but I thank you for that. Have you ever watched American Sniper? Yes, I have. American Propaganda. But it was well directed. Is it true that if you blaspheme God or Christ that you can be forgiven? Yes, if you seek forgiveness, absolutely. But reject the Holy Spirit and you cannot be saved. That is a misinterpretation, because if, let's say, you convert to a heretical group and you reject that the Holy Spirit is divine, that's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. So then what do? Can you never go back to the church? Can you never go back to Christ? Well, of course you can. Augustine interprets that verse to basically mean the rejection of Christ's forgiveness, because the only sin that cannot be forgiven is the rejection of Christ's forgiveness. In other words, all sins can be forgiven unless you don't want to be forgiven. Yep, I know. Yep. Wait, what? Yep, that's exactly what happened. I think the debate about confessing to a priest of pedophilia was a red flag, was it not? Well, since I brought up the subject of red flags in films and in real life, I will answer your question. Yes, you are correct. It was a red flag. The fact that and I'm not saying he molested anybody. I'm not saying that at all. All I know so far is what I have heard reading what was released to the public, because his arrest was made public. The charges were made public. The charge was made public. And that's pretty much all I know. And I know that he was charged with child endangerment. So yeah, most definitely. Life hits you hard, man. I was depressed, actually, when that happened. Very depressed. I was depressed for about a month. Not like, oh, I'm going to kill myself, but I was shocked. I was very saddened by it, but we got rid of him. We got rid of him, and that was that. Would you say that Orthodox are pagans? No. No, they're not pagans. The Holy Spirit is what convicts you by rejecting the convictions and refusing forgiveness. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So I've been here for over an hour. It looks like the Ortho Bro war is about to commence. So I better skedaddle out of here unless you guys have some more questions for me. Goodbye, Joshua. So it looks like you guys don't have any interesting questions. Yeah, it's about to come up, man. Can you make a video about Josephus and Sam's channel? I did actually. Look it up. When Jerusalem turned to Sodom. Look it up. It was one of my last interviews with him. Okay, man. All right, I'll see you later, Mr. Croatian. Okay, Khalaf, what's your question? Go ahead. What about Serapis? Oh, Ptolemy Soter. I have no idea, dude. Wasn't Serapis just like a part of Egyptian mythology? Oh God, we're about to come into the polymus thing. I'm out. Skedaddle. See you later. Peace, yo.